For more on this or on the census outcomes, we are now joined by former Statistician-General Dr. Pali Lehohla, and he joins us via our video link. Dr. Pali, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition, even though you are in the midst of course, load shedding. Let's start off with the latest coming out from the census, and you know it does deal with South Africa's population. The increase we are seeing from 51.7 million to now sitting at 62 million. What's your immediate reaction there?
I don't know what the question is in terms of an immediate reaction, so I will take liberties. The first liberty I'll take is basically what is the population growth of South Africa. South Africa has been growing at about 1% per annum, and that's how it reached 62 million from 51 million 10 years ago. We also know that I'm sure there will be fertility numbers that will come, but from different sources which are not as yet in the census. We are aware that South Africa has about 2.4, or rather females in South Africa in the age group 15 to 49, that is during their fertile ages, give birth to about 2.4 children per woman, which is just 0.3 children above replacement. So the rate of growth of South African population is relatively low in comparison to countries like Uganda and the like. So there is that's why we are now moving from 51 to 62 million people. Whites have remained almost stagnant, although in terms of, yes, also in terms of percentage, they have dropped, but in absolute terms, they have remained at about 4.4 million people over the period of now almost 30 years, from 1994.
And Dr.
So this is the situation.
Yeah, and Dr. Lehohla, I was actually coming to those statistics there when we look at, black South Africans and the black population now sitting at 81.4%, but we see that slight decrease there when it comes to white South Africans at around 7.3%. What would you say, contributes to that now that you are saying that it has remained stagnant?
Well, whites are now below replacement. That is, they are giving birth to less than 2.1. A white woman in the age group 15 to 49 during their reproductive ages gives birth to 2.1 children, less than 2.1 children, actually below replacement. So that has left their population almost stationary. That is, the numbers are not increasing, they're actually stagnant at that rate. So the issue around them sharing 7% is a result of their growing population relative to a growing population of blacks, albeit the black population is also growing at a very low rate.
At the same time, these statistics were done during a very interesting time in the world and in our country. We're just coming out of COVID-19, also still experiencing COVID-19 during 2022. One would ask, how were these calculations done? Because I remember at the same time, Stats SA also calling on South Africa to make the use of being registered through electronic means. When you collect this kind of data, what actually goes into collecting data of this nature?
Well, I think Stats SA was very bold and absolutely strangely very, very bold in taking a leap of faith going forward in going digital. Of course, we had in 2016 tried the digital, but not wholly digital in terms of online census. But that test gave confidence that digital is the way to go. And digital has many benefits because it removes friction, a friction of printing paper, taking it into the forward logistics of distribution as we go and enumerate, and then reverse logistics, and then processing and so on. So going digital was indeed the ideal move Whether it was the right time, it's another matter, but certainly it was the right innovation, particularly in the context of COVID-19. Of course, they took the bold move as well to go into field and just in the middle and in the midst of COVID. So under those challenges, under those circumstances, they confronted a lot of difficulties. A census under any normal circumstance doesn't have normal circumstances. It throws all kinds of unique challenges. And then when you go in the middle of a COVID pandemic, certainly it can throw a lot of very, very strange challenges. Obviously, you can look at the undercount as a consequence of that. But of course, we have the post-enumeration survey. The techniques are very scientific, very obvious and very clear. And of course, the organization, the mighty organization, is able to cope with running a robust post-enumeration survey and then doing the adjustments to the population. And the expectations from a modeling point of view suggest that the numbers are quite robust. The Statistics Council has actually made them pass the test in terms of quality of the information. They've looked at indices of inconsistency on certain variables, and all those have fallen within statistically tolerable limits. So the numbers are really good, and they have to be used. Oh, well, Gauteng, 15 million, much bigger than KwaZulu-Natal, which used to be the top runner in the population. So Gauteng has not lost its magnet to society, particularly for people who come from outside. So that puts pressure on services in Gauteng. 2.4 million migrants have come into South Africa in the period of 10 years. Doubling from when it was 2011, when it was at 1.2 million. That doubling is very interesting, and of course, migrants bring a lot of interesting things to countries. They are more daring, they are more entrepreneurial.
Yeah. And Dr. Lehohla, I'm just going to come and try and wrap up quickly with just my last question to you. You know, one would ask, when we see these census being done in the country, you speak about services. Why is it so important for South Africa to tally its population? I mean, we also heard there from the president, you know, lauding, the statistics, saying that it even shows that 95% of South Africans now have access to electricity. Why is it so important for our country to know the population it has?
Well, I think the Statistician-General advisedly, when it came to electricity, said, well, the infrastructure is there, but obviously connectivity is not there of electricity. So all these things go together. So as we do that, we can say, well, we've laid the foundation, the infrastructure is there, but load shedding is undermining this whole thing. Water as well, we can see that reversals in Limpopo and Eastern Cape have occurred since the last census of 2011. So it is important to understand this, especially in the context of, other statistics do show that while poverty reduced monotonically in all municipalities in South Africa between 2001 to 2011, 82 municipalities had reversals in terms of poverty gains from between 2011 and 2016. This census results will be very important to actually look at multidimensional poverty, who has been affected. And as I say, using multidimensional indices, we'll be able to give detailed statistics at lower levels of geography to actually understand how poverty has fared, particularly in the context of COVID-19. And that's the importance of these numbers. I wish they will be used. And I think the president has made the point that these numbers cannot rot on the shelves. They have to be used in order to understand and change the trajectory of South Africa. And the mighty organizations, that I say, stands as an important institution of the state that is very exemplary indeed in terms of professionalism, competency, and robustness of systems.
And very importantly, does government actually make use of these numbers? I mean, we've seen the pressures on many municipalities in the country where many South Africans are calling on for service delivery. Does government actually use these numbers?
To my knowledge, not. accepted a very casual level of knowing that my village is bigger than my wife's village. That's what one has said, very, very at the very rudimentary level of entertainment value. The numbers may have some entertainment value, but certainly they are not used. South Africa has a wealth of data coming out of Stats SA. Unfortunately, policymakers don't look into this data, even when they try to analyze. For instance, when you look at education, between 2011 or 2001 to 2022, the number of people who actually go to post-school has increased only by 7%, has increased from 7% to 12%. 5 percentage points in 10 years is 0.5% growth a year in terms of skills at higher education level. So these data are telling us the deficiencies that are there in our policy space, far apart from the NDP targets that wish to see South Africa as a developmental state. So I lament that the numbers have not been used. When I delivered the numbers in 2011 of the census, shortly after that, I was invited to China. And when we got to China, the question was, what are the implications, economic implications of the demographics, of the economy of China on the demographics in the light of the 2010 census that the Chinese had just had. I had presented these numbers to the ANC conference. The best thing I could get were accolades. Comrade, you have done very well. Around analysis, absolutely dollar. And this is the problem that we have. And these numbers are very important. They have to be used.
And how can this actually aid municipalities to ensure that, we don't see the amount of protests we are currently seeing from various residents and various South Africans who continue to complain about service delivery? How can this aid municipalities to ensure that it is indeed delivering services where it needs to?
You know, one of the things that we did at Stats SA as an innovation, aware of the lackluster possibilities of use of numbers, we created a Center for Regional and Urban Innovation and Statistical Exploration at Stellenbosch in order to orientate statisticians, Statistics South Africa, to the matters of geography, in order to understand cultural and economic geography. And with that, we were hoping that municipalities will send counterparts from municipalities to interact with the statisticians so that we can begin to deal with matters planning more robustly and contextualizing things and planning at the data level, connecting things at the data level, not putting files side by side and hoping that we are integrating when we are doing that. And that's the biggest problem that we have. So statistics are important, but to the extent then that design thinking and systems design in the area of planning takes place. Unfortunately, people don't have the kind of skill and they don't wish to acquire the kind of skill that the team at Stats SA had acquired from the Center for Regional and Urban Innovation and Statistical Exploration, where we produced about 120 MPhil people who are in the organization. So when you think about Statistics South Africa and the intellectual capacity that imbues out of that organization, it is not matched by the other departments that actually have to use the data, who are policy departments who should benefit from the data. And therefore, the planning falls flat.
Yeah. And Dr. Lehohla, when we wrap up, this conversation around the country's statistics, would you say that this is a true reflection of the country's population? Because, today I saw a number of people saying, well, I was not counted and I did not make use of the online platforms that were made available. Would you say it's a true reflection of the country's population?
Well, over a period of time from 1996 to 2011 and to now, we always uncount. We always omit people. And we, in full knowledge that that will happen, you have an instrument called post-enumeration survey by which you calibrate those that you have missed or those that you have double counted so that you remove them. These techniques are well established. Whether the census, whether the population undercount is big or small, you have well-calibrated science-based instruments that count for adjustments of the population. Obviously, when you come to small areas at village level and the like, the calibration may not be as appropriate or adequate. But at the municipal level, and therefore at the ward level as well, and then at the district municipality level, and at the province and the national level, the numbers hold. So if it holds at municipality level, that's the smallest unit of planning that has to be dealt with. And then the numbers, whether people were not counted, obviously one wants people to be counted. But where you have missed them, you have an instrument of proving that they have been missed and are calibrating for them. And the total number of the population, the distribution by province, I'm yet to see the distribution by municipality. But based on all those, there are even tests that you can drive, such as the ZIF, which at Stellenbosch University, where we created this Center for Regional and Urban Innovation and Statistical Exploration, using the ZIF technique, you can actually calibrate and test the calibration from point A to point B against what the census tells. So an arsenal of tools to compensate for missed people are available, and of course you adjust for those and you get the total population.
All right.
The tools are robust, the people are competent, the institution is mighty.
All right, Dr. Lehohla, thank you so much for that insight.